Hey there. Today I wanted to talk about sports injuries and the athletes that have been most affected by them. First, I want to highlight some athletes that have been affected by the worst injuries in the game but continued to come back and pave a career for themselves. Tiger Woods is the first one that comes to mind. He has had more back issues than I can count, not to mention playing with a double stress fracture on his left tibia during the 2008 US Open, which he won. His body has been battled and broken, but till this day he continues to go out and swing the club like he's one of the best around. And occasionally we get to see that version of him that is still the best. Peyton Manning is the next person I wanted to talk about. Most people, when you think of Peyton Manning, you think of him as his long tenure with the Colts and less about the few years he spent with the Denver Broncos. In his final year with the Indianapolis Colts, he never played a down of football after having multiple off-season neck surgeries and a spinal fusion. Most thought he would never play football again. He returned that following year stronger and better than ever, setting regular season offensive records in passing touchdowns and yards. He ended his career as a Super Bowl champion in 2016. Adrian Peterson, back in December of 2011, was a member of the Minnesota Vikings when he tore his ACL and MCL in his left knee. I, among many others, thought there was no way he'd be back anytime that following year, let alone back on the field altogether. Just 10 months later, he was back on the field for Week 1. Not only did he stay on the field for the entire season, he had a legitimate run for Eric Dickerson's regular season rushing record of 2,105 yards. Peterson finished with 2,097. Derrick Rose is an individual that I'm putting on this list that others might not agree with. We all know his story from number 1 overall pick to MVP to devastating knee injuries. The reason I'm putting him on this list is because he suffered 4 season-ending knee injuries, a facial fracture, which he played through, sprained ankles, bone spurs, and an elbow injury. With all that, he's still in the NBA, currently playing for the Detroit Pistons, and since being traded away from the Bulls, he's averaging over 16 points a game. In my opinion, that's not bad for a guy that has a laundry list of injuries and is relegated to coming off the bench and learning his new role on an NBA team. Is he the MVP we all remember? No. But who is after they are affected by injuries, let alone all that he's been through in that regard? Now, I could go on to listing all the players that have battled through injuries and had successful careers afterward, but that's not what this entire video is about. Here are some players that got hit with the injury bug and never recovered. Brandon Roy, 3-time NBA All-Star in his first 4 seasons. After his rookie season, in which he was named Rookie of the Year, he had a procedure to remove a piece of cartilage from his left knee, and a few years later, he tore the meniscus in his right knee. That following season, he was having issues with the lack of cartilage in both of his knees that he had season-ending arthroscopic surgery on both of them. He retired after that season because of his knee issues. He then attempted a comeback the following season that only lasted 5 games before he had season-ending knee surgery on his right knee. He retired for good after that. Dante Culpepper. In the early 2000s, Culpepper was one of the most electric quarterbacks out there. A Pro Bowler twice in his early career and leading the league with 4,117 passing yards and a completion percentage of over 69%, and adding over 400 rushing yards and 39 total touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. The next year he blew out his right knee, tearing his ACL, MCL, and PCL. A year later he was traded to the Dolphins, where he only appeared in 24 games over the next 4 seasons. Bo Jackson, one of the most freak athletes that was ever created. Bo Jackson was a 2-sport phenom in the NFL as a running back and in the MLB as an outfielder. Known for being faster than any other football player on the field, which he showcased regularly. As far as baseball, a play that always sticks in my mind is watching highlights of him throwing out Harold Reynolds at home plate from the warning track. It's a common play, usually enough, until you realize that Bo Jackson threw it on the fly to home plate. Not to mention when the players had to let Harold know that it was Bo that threw him out and not a cutoff man. Sadly, in an NFL playoff game in 1990, Bo was tackled from behind and somehow dislocated his hip. Going undiagnosed for a time, Bo needed to have hip replacement surgery, and that ended his NFL career. He then only played 2 more seasons in the MLB for the Chicago White Sox and the California Angels before retiring from baseball. One can only imagine what a dual career would have looked like had he been able to stay healthy. The last 2 names that I'm going to mention that also got caught by the injury bug that never let go were Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood. In 2003, Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood were the most dominant 1-2 punch in any starting rotation. That year, Pryor struck out 245 batters in 211 1/3 innings, and Wood struck out 266 batters over 211 innings. That's a lot of innings and a lot of strikeouts during the course of one season. After that season, neither pitcher was the same. After battling multiple arm and shoulder issues that eventually finished Pryor's career in 2006 and forced Wood to only be used out of the bullpen. Who's to say the Cubs wouldn't have won the World Series sooner had their stud pitchers been able to stay healthy after that 2003 season? Well, that's all I'm going to list today. I just wanted to remind people of some of the great stories of players who have had multiple injuries and have been able to recover from them and have long careers, as well as some players who weren't as fortunate in that endeavor and injuries cost them their careers. No matter what the injury, everyone recovers from it differently, mentally and physically. Until next time, I'm Kevin Householder.